What's up, bros and hoes, whatever floats you go? It's Relentless bringing you yet another Division build video. If you happen to be new to the channel, thanks so much for tuning in. Ground and pound that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on post notifications so that way you know each and every time a new video is uploaded. Now, I've gotten tons of questions on how I have my particular build, this one I'm about to go over, rolled, and pretty much a build guide, and I was like, well, I have it on my channel, and they're like, no you don't. I show a glimpse of it, but never really did a in-depth build guide to this build. There's a lot of other content creators much larger than I that I've already done this build, and they constantly recycle the build over and over and over, and doesn't change a thing. And I didn't want to fall in that stereotype or that category, so that's why I haven't done it. And to my surprise, the other reason is I thought I already had like a long time ago, but apparently I haven't. So I hopped on and figured I would do a quick build guide on how to actually make this build. Now keep in mind, this is just go hand in hand and indicative of how I play, and it's to my liking and my play style. You might like it a little tankier, you might like it a little more DPS. Just make it your own, but the overall how you should roll things and what should be on it, in my opinion, this is the more or less the best all-around best way to have this particular build. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Yes, it is one of the top 3 most famous, or favorite, I should say, gear sets or builds that are currently in the Dark Zone, just because you get the bonuses for 4-piece Banshee and then 3-piece Pred. For the Pred, you get the 8% bonus damage to ARs and SMGs, and then the main component that makes this whole build most popular is the 4th piece. With the 3, you get 10% bonus damage to targets out of cover, but like I said, the main component, the main ingredient that makes this build so potent is the 4-piece bonus by way of Banshee. It states, while rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds. Damage taken from non-rogue players is reduced by 10%. While not rogue, damage to rogue players is increased by 10%. This bonus is increased to 20% for 10 minutes after being killed by a rogue. So basically, whether you're policing the DZ or just going rogue yourself, because let's face it, rogue lives matter, it could go either way, no matter whatever the case may be, and whichever you're doing. Either or is quite fine. Or you just enjoy PvP and just looking for it in any form or fashion, then this build right here suits those needs quite well. And plus, the way I have it, you have sufficient enough survivability, you have a decent skill power pool, and also you are dishing out enough damage. Because with the 12% that you have on your gloves, accompanied with a 10% bonus to targets out of cover, and then the 8, you get a grand total of 30% bonus damage all around. And then if you happen to die by a rogue player, then you get an additional 20% on top of that. That brings that to 50% for 10 minutes. Now, on your gloves, whether it be Banshee or Pred, just as long as you have 3 and 2 and plus the ninja bag, then you're good to go. But in the majors, you want crit hit damage, crit hit chance, and SMG damage or AR damage, just either or, just whichever you prefer. I'm more or less an SMG player, so that's why I have SMG damage rolled on my gloves. Let's go over to the chest piece. We have stamina rolled on it, maxed on the armor. In the major attributes, we have enemy armor damage, health, and ammo capacity. This chest piece didn't have ammo capacity on it, and none of the ninja bags I have ammo capacity on it. So therefore, I needed the ammo capacity in the minors here. But in the majors, instead of enemy armor damage, I would much prefer exotic damage resilience in this category, just for the simple fact of all the spam grenades while I am rogue, and roguing out the DZ from getting grenaded so much by the more or less the nomad dependent mob, as I call them, with tons of grenades. So the extra exotic damage resilience comes in handy. In the mod slots, we have 2 stamina with skill power mods. Moving on to the mask, you want it rolled to stamina. In the majors, you want crit hit chance. In the minors, the all perfect mask here, I would have the damage or additional percentage to damage to elites in this minor, so that way it is much easier to take down NPCs and can be versatile in that way, whether you're in PvP or PvE in the Dark Zone. Now in the mod slot, I have another stamina and skill power mod. Moving on to the knee pads. Maxed out on the armor, only 8 points shy of the firearms, so that's not really going to be very minuscule and minor when it comes to actual damage that you're going to be outputting. In the major attributes, you want crit damage, and the perfect trifecta, in my opinion, in the minors would be shock resistance, bleed resistance, and burn resistance. But I gotta take what I can get, so I have blind death resistance here instead of instead of bleed. Excuse me. In the mod slots, we have stamina and health. The RNG gods are not great to me, or not even really good to me at all. I probably went through 1,000 of materials combined just to try to get a high stamina and skill power mod. That would be what I would put in this slot instead of the stamina with health. So that way, I mean, it doesn't really won't make that much of a difference between having the extra 3k skill power versus a 3k in health. That's just what I would prefer. It's just a little small things. Now going on to the backpack, you want it rolled to stamina. In the majors, you definitely want crit damage. In the minors, ammo capacity would be good, but since you have the utilization of the 4-piece bonus for Banshee, then the ammo capacity here in the minors is not necessarily needed, because if you are rogue, then your ammo will be refilled every 30 seconds. In the mod slots, we have stamina and skill power with 2 first aid self heals. Now we already went over the gloves, so let's go on to the holster. You want the majors. Another main crucial part is you want definitely crit chance. And in the mod slots, we have another first aid self heal. So just a quick rundown review over the gear pieces themselves before we move on to the weapons and its talents and the character sheet, and then the skills and talents and that. A quick recap: you want crit chance on your mask and holster, you want crit damage on your knee pads and your backpack. Ammo capacity at least on 1, especially if you're roguing a lot of times and you are rogue more times than you are non-rogue, so you definitely just want at least 1 ammo capacity in either your chest piece or backpack. Now if you're more or less facing and policing the DZ, then your best bet is having ammo capacity in the minors on both chest piece and backpack. Now let's go on over to the weapons. Now this is just my particular talents that I prefer on my house. If I wanted to and I'm playing with a healer or somebody that has a good pulse, then I will switch to this house and use this one with deadly and responsive. But the current one, that more or less meets everything, regardless whether I have a pulse in the group or not, and it comes by the way of vicious, deadly, and of course the card counter talent. We have magazine size, crit damage, crit hit chance in the magazine slot. In the optics, we have crit damage, optimal range, and crit chance. In the small muzzle, we have crit damage, headshot damage, and crit hit chance. In the underbarrel, we have crit damage, reload speed, and a little bit of stability. In my secondary, when I choose to use it, this case we are going with vicious, unforgiving, and competent. I usually use this other one I have down here, as you see, with vicious and predatory, and a little bit of prepared for that increased damage for targets maybe coming after you, or that you see running towards you while you are rogues. That way the shot that you do land will be a little more potent with that little extra 15% when they are 30 meters from you or farther out, because after you max out your optimal range, then there is damage drop off on after that. So prepared does come in handy. I call it the poor man's nomad resolve, which is the predatory talent, because you have ample supply of NPCs laying around, and there's always a break in the action, regardless whether you're going rogue or fighting rogues, where you can kill a couple of NPCs. All you need is really 1, so that way you can proc predatory, so you get that pretty much constant heal of that 35% health over 20 seconds. But once I get this one fully optimized, I'll probably be using it mostly with predatory, deadly, and determined, because basically I am an SMG player. That's what I prefer to use. But when in the case needed, such as when I want to get my skills back faster, or like I said, proc predatory for that poor man's nomad resolve, then it comes in quite handy. Now let's go over these skills and talents before we hit the character sheet. Now, depending on who you're running with or by yourself, those factors will determine what skills you want. For instance, if you are running with someone that has a good reclaimer build, when you have the reclaimer, you don't want the other 3 members in your group all running immune boxes. So therefore, at least one of you can either switch out immune box for a pulse or a disruptor, or whatever is going to best suit your team for whatever its needs. Not necessarily what you need, but it's all about the team, the cohesiveness of your team. So generally, somebody will always run a base pulse. So I'm always hitting crit chance, the max cap on it. But let's just say for some weird and strange way you're new to the game and nobody's running a base pulse, it's easy just on your talents. Just go and utilize precision, so that way you can headshot a hostile with pulse them for 10 seconds. That'll usually do the trick. Even if you don't have a vicious on your weapon, you're basically still going to hit anywhere between 54 to 56% crit chance, just with the precision tunnel along with crit chance rolled on the mods and the gear pieces alone. And then always, you like I said, immune box, but if somebody else has 2 immune boxes and plus your healer has a box, then you want to go with a disrupt, especially if you have pred on your team or there's shock turrets, flame turrets, then a disrupt does come in handy in those situations. So just be fluid in your particular skill set on what you want to use and utilize something that's going to benefit your team mostly. I mean, you wouldn't all 3 or 4 of you running a base pulse, that would just be redonkulous. So therefore, just mix and match in what's going to best suit the play style and the play of your squad. On to the talents, you definitely always want to keep adrenaline on, so that way if somebody does disrupt your box or it's on cooldown and then you get hit by a status effect, then you can pop a med kit and have that immunity and cleanse for 7 seconds. Then I'm utilizing critical save. Use a medkit during low health to increase damage resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. And as always, when you're running, whether it be a 2-man, 3-man, or 4-man group, you want to run combat medic. It is very crucial. So that way you can, glance at your teammates' health, and if you see them getting really low and dangerous, you can pop a medkit for them, so that way they receive 40% of that health by way of the medkit. And then, of course, we have the critical save. Use a med kit during low health to increase damage resistance by 20% for 10 seconds. So when you got critical save activated, you get that 20% increase in damage resistance, and then also you get a 20% reduction in your skill cooldowns. And then that is for team play, the combat medic. But if you're solo, there's no need to run combat medic. And then of course, as always, adrenaline. Now let's go over the character sheet itself and show you the stats on my house. 56% crit chance, 136% crit damage. Scrolling on down, 15% reload speed, the 8% coming by way of the Predator's Mark pieces, the 8%, and then we have 20% for the SMG damage bonus. That is the 12% coming from the gloves, and of course the 8% pred. But this number does not reflect any kind of Banshee bonus because it only is applied to targets out of cover. So it's not a constant thing, so therefore they don't list that on here. So if they're out of cover and not in cover behind something or hiding or whatnot, then this number will actually be 30%. And then if you happen to die by the hands of a rogue, then you will get that another additional 20% buff on top of that. So 40% if they're in cover, 50% out of cover. 6% enemy armor damage, 101k skill power, max health pool is 161k, armor mitigation is 33.14, and then we have the 33% blind death, the 50% burn resistance since everybody wants to run flame turrets now, disrupt, and then shock resistance. Now, if you want to be really tanky and you do have an exceptional healer, you can skip out on the skill power, the additional skill power that I have here, and then have stamina on that. If you do it that way, then add another 15 to 16k of stamina on top of that, and your number would be anywhere between 555k toughness to 557, 58k toughness. I just like the little extra skill power above my little base, so that way if I happen to be waiting for my mates to come outside of the checkpoint or the safe room, so that way they can catch the rogue status or manhunt status back, then while I'm in survival mode, then that little extra additional skill power does come in handy. But like I said, make this build your own. Pick and choose with it. I'm pretty sure those out there have at least tried it once or are actually trying to acquire the pieces in order to put this build together. And once you do, start at a baseline of toughness. Roll everything to stamina except for one piece, and then add it onto firearms. And then if you want to be a little less tanky and feel that you have well enough, more than enough survivability, then you can take out of the toughness and add into firearms. Like I said, I could go a little bit stronger in my firearms and then just drop my skill power completely. But like I said, this is, in my opinion, like the overall most rounded out Pred-Shee build that you can actually make. This is just my personal preference, but play around with it. Find your what's the word I'm looking for? Find your optimal way of actually utilizing this build and make it conform to your playstyle, and not make anybody's build video conform to your playstyle. Make sure you don't have to change your playstyle to fit some build that you're making from some video. Take that build and make it your own, so that way you can best utilize it and conquer that build by letting it adapt to your playstyle instead of having to adapt to somebody else's build and to their playstyle. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. And also, another quick reminder is click on that link in the description below and check out those awesome shirts. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you fudging later.